Okay, welcome back to the podcast. Mark, today we're going to talk about body image, self-confidence, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be quite an interesting episode and probably quite hard to talk about at times. But I think it makes sense to talk about, like, mate, we're both happily in relationships now and things, I'm married and, we're settled.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to describe it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But, mate, I'll be honest, I remember being younger, wasn't as overweight as I was at my biggest, but it's still, like, self-confidence was very low. The weight was always a massive issue for me. And I remember Fiona, my wife, when we went out on our sort of first date, being a bit surprised that there was a kiss there, and she still sort of remarks on it now sometimes, and for me it just goes to show the complete lack of confidence, which actually in itself I think is quite unattractive sometimes.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we sort of discuss this, mate, on the podcast, because I think there's so much out there that tells us what we should look like, what we should be like, and I think when you're overweight it can really hit hard.
Yeah, and there's a lot of self-confidence issues on there. We've spoken about that on a recent episode, and there's a whole bag of stuff to chat about here, I think. And but let's take it back, like body confidence, sort of like in your younger years.
Yeah,
like at school, we were both on the rounder side, weren't we, at school?
Yeah, wouldn't have said like obese or anything like that, but definitely overweight, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know, I got picked on a bit for being overweight and everything, so it was always there, and it became part of my identity, I think, and a lot of my whole mindset surrounded that. And so then when it came to things like dating, I just kind of felt like that weren't for me almost, I was certainly in high school, didn't have a lot of luck with girls, got a bit better as I moved schools between sort of year 11 and sixth form, and lost a lot of weight over that summer, and that actually helped, because then I'd lost a lot of weight because I was almost going into sixth form as a new man, and the image of fat Mark wasn't there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And and there's no doubt about it, like, I felt more confident in myself because I'd lost that weight and everything. But I think it's fair to say neither of us were players in our younger years.
No, mate, no. I never really have been that sort of person, to be fair. A lot of my mates are, but I've always just sort of been very much like, straight down the line. I think you're right. Looking back at school, I think that there were a few people that I liked sort of year 10, year 11, so later secondary.
Yeah.
And they were, what I would have said, certainly if you ask me then, is a bit out of reach. And a lot of that come down to the fact that I was overweight back then. Certainly I remember the first time I remember speaking to my parents, I think I was 16, so I used to do washing up like a restaurant. Local restaurant called Prima back then.
Yeah.
And they had a Christmas party, and there was a girl there from the other school in town who was a bit flirty, and I just didn't have the confidence to do anything. And I remember not really explaining to my parents why, but saying I want to lose weight. And obviously that was the first point where I think it really hit that I've got no confidence, and the reason for that is because I'm chubby. And like what you're saying, so I never really got bullied at school for my weight, to be honest. I think we've gone over in my story that I was very sporty, very active in early secondary, probably not overweight, and then I had problems with my hips. I couldn't exercise for 3 years, and that's where the weight sort of first piled on, I suppose. And I think most people were quite understanding of that at school. I had some really good friends who were quite feared in our school, I suppose, that would never have let things like that happen. But at the same time, I do remember one of those friends sort of saying to me just on the walk in school, and it's strange how you remember this 30 odd years later, is like, I remember him saying, and it weren't in a malicious way, but saying, "Oh, you're chubby, aren't you?" And that was the first sort of time where I really sort of see it as a problem, I suppose. But going back to this dating thing, I think it was 16 where I first sort of thought, right, I need to lose weight, and tried to go on a diet, and it didn't last long, to be honest. And that was all that started because it was, something I wanted to get on with a girl, wanted to try and puller, I suppose, and didn't have the self-confidence.
Yeah, and it's funny, and sort of like in my times, like I said, I went to sixth form and things improved, and then slowly started to put weight back on again, and then I went to university, which is kind of really a time where you're young and free, and probably you're almost at the peak of your powers in terms of dating and everything, and I kind of weren't, I piled a load of weight back on, and then I had no self-belief again, and kind of struggled again at that point in time. But I think the dating world's a lot different these days now. There was no Tinder back then, there was no social media, there was no filters or any of that bullshit back then. It was like what you saw was what you saw. It's usually you saw a girl in a club or in a bar, and you had to sort of man up and go and talk to them and say, hey, how you doing? And that world's changed a bit now, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, mate, isn't it? It really has. Like, it's strange because, you see some of the people putting photos out on social media and things, and you think, that doesn't really look that much like you.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side to that, I suppose we've all been there trying to get a photo for whatever reason, whether it's for something to do with work or whatever, your business.
Yeah.
And like, no, I'm not happy with that one, and you're trying to get the best possible photo. But you're right, we live in a world now where you can make yourself look almost like a whole new person.
Flawless, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that app where it's like, if you download this app, you take a photo of yourself and it gives you like a LinkedIn photo, a Facebook photo.
Yeah.
And you think, God, like, it's amazing how you can just use AI to almost change your appearance to what someone somewhere is saying is a better version of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's quite depressing, actually.
It is. When you say it like that, that's pretty mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, body image is such a thing, and social media has so much to answer for now. And I don't think, when social media first became a thing, I don't think anyone realised sort of where it was taking us exactly.
Yeah, mate. I obviously, in my job, social media is a huge part of what I do. So I take a lot of time to learn about how it works and, how the algorithms work and what social media platforms ultimately want to do. And they essentially want to keep you on there to show you more adverts, which is how they make money, right? So when you've got content that gets engagement, that gets good watch time and stuff like that, it naturally does well. It will show it to more people because it keeps people on the platform. The problem with that is, if you, like, at the moment, I'm seeing a lot of these TikTok videos where someone who's overweight will take a photo of themselves and then it will make them skinny, and they'll put it on there like wanting to see what I look like skinny for motivation.
Yeah.
And then... and then I've seen ones the other way around where skinny people are taking photos of themselves and it's making them look fat to see what I'd look like if I was overweight. And it's really interesting because you get some people then going onto the platform and being like, you shouldn't be doing this, it's wrong, it's not good. And then the barrage of abuse that people are getting, and then they respond to it. And all it does is just make the social media platforms think this is good content because people are really engaging with it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's psychologically, I suppose, having an impact on people, and that's a bit of a shame, I think.
I think we've grown up with it, and so we remember what it was like before. I guess if you're younger, so I'm thinking about my kids, my stepkids. I've got a 17-year-old stepson, 13, almost, she'll be 14 by the time this comes out, stepdaughter, and they don't know any different. This is it. The world of filtered images on Instagram and Snapchat is their reality.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't know it. And so that it's for them I feel for, and they're almost sort of having to chase an unrealistic expectation, an unrealistic image, and that's just not the reality of it. And the thing is for us, and I was chatting to one of my good mates about this the other day with like social media, certainly for our age, you only ever see your friends' best days and best moments. No one's putting the shit days on there of like, I've had a really bad day at work, I've overeaten because I felt really miserable. No one's posting that shit on there, are they? It's
when you go on holiday. So when so many friends go on holiday, you notice all of a sudden their social media comes to life.
Yeah.
And you're like, I haven't seen photos of you for 6 months, and all of a sudden you're away, and bam, you're posting 3 times a day.
Yeah.
But to be fair, mate, we all do that to a certain extent, and you're right. It's just that we want to show that in life. Interestingly, at the moment, at the time of recording this, there's a Netflix drama come out called Adolescence.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yeah. Awesome, isn't it?
It really is, and it kind of dives into this issue, I think. So I think this is a spoiler alert, so if you've not seen Adolescence, maybe press skip 10 15 times. But I think, really interesting, because the kid, it's all around that sort of finding women attractive, being seen as unattractive, and him sort of being a bit of an Andrew Tate boy.
Yes.
And that hate that's spread around, masculinity, and you know what, mate, it really opened up a bag of worms, I think.
Yeah.
And it does definitely go to show the difference. I mean, obviously, bad things happened when we were younger as they do now, but I think social media has just created this energy behind it.
It's created that polarisation. It's almost you have to be in one camp or the other, haven't you?
Yeah.
And there's a whole can of worms we could sort of go into on that. But I don't know really where I'm going with this, but yeah, it's social media's got a lot to answer for, and it does create a lot of division when you didn't know these people existed 30 years ago, so you didn't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, and it's made an issue that's already there. It's brought it more into the limelight and made it a bigger issue, I think. I think the filters and stuff like that give this unrealistic expectation of what young people should look like all of the time.
Yeah,
and I think that's really hard. Like, I remember in our day, you would have, like, I don't know, Vogue magazine or whatever it was called. Do you remember the old, like, FHM and Nuts magazine?
Yeah.
Things like that. And I suppose that was a little bit of this, but you'd have to go to a shop to buy it. It wasn't in front of your face all the time.
Yeah. It wasn't like you just picked up your phone. It's the first thing you see in the morning, was it?
No, exactly. And then, and interestingly as well, another thing that I used to love is Soccer AM.
Yeah.
And they've been getting some modern day thinking around the Soccerettes, I think.
Yeah, I've seen that actually. Yeah, they've got a podcast as well, haven't they? Soccer A to Z, I think, where it's Tim Lovejoy and Helen Chamberlain. They're just talking about the good old days and that.
Yeah, and society has changed, and I suppose those views, both sides, be it, the more feminist side, they're going to be stronger than what they were.
Yeah.
The more masculine side, they're going to be stronger than what they were. And I think most people are just somewhere in the middle of all that, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think that's social media as a whole. I think the problem is it gives a platform for the people with the most extreme views, and they seem to shout the loudest, don't they? And like I said, you've got 99% in the middle who don't give a fuck, and you've got 1.5% or 0.5% either side that are shouting the loudest.
Yeah. But in this world, I suppose the point of this episode is, in this world, I think there's two things that we should cover here. Is, first of all, what should we be thinking of this as overweight men or men on a weight loss journey? Do we give a fuck about these filters, these trends and stuff like that? But then perhaps the more important question is, we've both got young children, and a lot of our listeners will as well, is how do we protect our children to say, actually, do you know what? Like, you just need to see this for what it is. It's just a bit of fucking AI.
Yeah.
It's not real life.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I think a lot of things kids like posting now, they do it for the likes and everything. And let's be honest, mate, I've posted like my weight loss photos on weight loss groups and got hundreds of likes and everything, and that feels good. You do get a dopamine hit for that, because it's kind of like validating your achievements and sharing it with people, and sort of like well done, you've achieved something here. And so I understand why people like doing that and crave getting those likes and everything, but in the grand scheme of things, it don't fucking matter, does it?
No, it don't matter. Like, likes mean nothing. To be fair, you a lot of people will be looking at that. They will like it, but they won't actually press that like button as well.
Yeah.
But I suppose that can be the power of social media. Is that in certain situations it can be quite inspiring and quite good, because you can get a bit of support in the right places. But then there's always the risk that when you put your information out there and put that picture out there, that someone's going to put a really shitty comment that actually could throw you off your diet.
Yeah.
So, look, mate, I'll be honest with you. I think, as hard as it is, ultimately, the person that matters the most is you, and how you feel about yourself. And I know that it's really easy to say that, and we all have those, those ideas of what we want to look like, what we should be looking like, and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think first of all, you need to find the happiness in yourself and for who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
And then you've got to want to do this for yourself. I don't think you're going to be motivated to do a diet very well if you're doing it for how others perceive you.
Yeah. Yeah.
In all honesty, the person that matters most to me about what she thinks is my wife. And then family and friends after that, I suppose. And to be quite frank, mate, I can give a fuck what someone from the other side of the country thinks about what I look like and if I'm overweight or not. It's really down to me. I suppose the other thing that would matter is like my health insurance or things like that, where it has a financial impact. But ultimately, mate, I think, social media can be really divisive, and we've got to be careful of what we put on there if we are putting things on there. And I think a lot of our audience won't really care. But what they will care about is their children.
The kids. I think that's very much it. And so I think we're at an age where we're comfortable in our body. We are who we are. We accept that. But we'll all have kids that are now going through a process of, am I enough? Am I good enough? Am I going to be attractive to the opposite sex? Am I too fat? Do I need to get fitter? I haven't got a six-pack. I haven't got the abs. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm a failure? And I think we've got to be there to support our kids more than anything in this side of things.
Yeah, and I've noticed that my eldest is 10, and I've already noticed him starting to take an interest in health. And I've not told him really about this podcast, to be honest, mate. He's a bit young for that, I think. But he's already started sort of making he's not very consistent with it at the moment, I'll be honest, but he's already started making a conscious effort around his appearance in terms of what he's eating and understanding that. But at the moment, I'm trying to make it more about his football. You got to fuel your body right. You've got to, I'm trying to put that spin on it with less pressure. Like, you want to be more agile so you can be a better footballer. Because, mate, I'll be honest, when we play at Man v Fat and other leagues that we're in and bits and bobs, for me, it's touch of the ball is obviously really important, but also it's the speed and the agility, and that's important. And that's what I'm trying to say to him is the way you eat, the way you fuel your body is going to make a difference on the pitch on a Saturday morning when you play. But I think there's no hiding the fact, even at 10, he's on YouTube. He's exposed to this content. So I suppose we're making now a conscious effort to say to him, well, look, it doesn't matter what all this noise is. What matters is how you feel. If you eat healthy, you'll feel better, and your body is your kind of body genetics has got a part to play in it. But you got to take ownership of it as well. If you want to be healthy, you got to put the effort in and do the yards.
No, that's a very good point. But it's a funny world, and like I said, there's so many things we can talk about it. And like I said, influencer culture is huge now, and it's them setting a standard for the younger kids, which is the worry is when they set something that's unrealistic.
And we've seen this. We got first-hand experience this on the podcast, haven't we? Like, with influencers just making a comment, not backing it up with any knowledge. And this influencer might be in his early 20s with testosterone flowing through his body freely. And you think to yourself, like, and this is kind of the problem, is that we live in a world where an influence means more than knowledge.
And the number of followers means more than, actual knowledge and everything. And it's so hard, like, and I've spoke about this so many times, and you've got like real ripped young lads, all females, that are saying how you've got to do this and this to lose weight and get fit and everything, and they've never actually had to lose the weight themselves. And I'm just like, you don't really get it. And they may be saying everything that's textbook correct, but if you've not sort of gone down that path and lack that empathy, you're never really going to truly understand. I agree. The problem is they've got the platform to be able to go out there and tell everyone else what to think. And they've got that platform and they've got those abs, and so they're almost saying, well, look, I've got a perfect body, so there's my validation. That proves that I'm right.
And And then in
Not
the
necessarily.
background, they're fucking injecting steroids and doing whatever they can, because they also know that their business and their influence is built around that image.
Yeah.
So my cousin is, you know, is a model, and
Okay.
it's you know, she's lovely and she's really good at what she does. You know, she works all over the world. But I always think to myself, like, that must be so much pressure for her, bless her. Like, you know, because like
That's your
everyone,
brand at the end of the day.
yeah, and like everyone, we're all aging, and that can't be stopped.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that constant pressure to, I suppose, be looking your best, and you've got to be on your diet. I suppose in a way it's similar to a sport. You've got to be at the top of your game all the time.
Yeah.
And that pressure must be quite hard.
Yeah. Just going to change the topic of conversation slightly now, and so I'm all for body positivity and looking you and sort of embracing who you are and everything. But you see, like, a lot within sort of like model shoots these days, and you actually see people of a far bigger physique. So like Nike have bigger people.
Yeah, plus size models. Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I do think. I think it's, look, at the end of the day, mate, if you're a clothing brand that sells plus size clothes, then you should be showing.
Yeah.
You know, the business head on me is saying you've got to show the clothes for who they're for. You can't, you know, you can't show a picture of someone who's a size, let's put it in women's term, a size 8 girl, but then sell the range from size 6 to 16 plus. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, all different. I think I'm really torn with it, to be honest, mate, because
it's a tricky one.
Look, you know, my honest opinion is, and I've been there, I've walked this, is that being overweight is not healthy. It's not good.
No,
and we don't want to normalise it too much.
That's kind of where I sit on it with you. So I don't want to make. Like I said, I'm all for people being happy in their skin and being positive in who they are, but let's not celebrate obesity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a fine line that we've got to tread here. Is I'm not here to shame anyone or to make anyone feel bad about themselves. That's the last thing we want to do. We've been there, so we do get it. But if someone's... We should be celebrating people being grossly overweight and saying that's body positivity. I think there's a... Do you know what I mean? It's a fine line to tread here.
But what I will say as well is that a lot of these models I've seen, I wouldn't class as obese. I would class them as perhaps in the overweight category. And I don't see a massive issue with that. But I think if you were doing it with someone who could barely walk up the stairs, that would be a huge problem, because that's you know, that's not healthy. That's really bad. I think it's also good, you know, at the end of the day, mate, like, I think very much it should depend on the brand. I think sometimes brands could be jumping on this when actually, let's be honest, they're not for overweight people. I think that, like, I think the Dove adverts I've seen, where they've got a few sort of, I wouldn't even say larger, but I'd say more normal women. And I think that's quite good in a way.
I get that, and I think that's the right level for it, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think we need to be careful not to take it too far, and like you say, we need to kind of not celebrate obesity, but then obesity is different to being overweight. Being overweight is healthier, still perhaps not ideal, but
healthy with obesity, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm really torn on that, to be honest. I think, and for me, it very much depends on the brand. Like, is it Bad Rhino that sell overweight clothes for men's, and is it Giacomo?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you wouldn't expect them to have a model on there who's got abs of steel, and
no, you'd probably get Big John, the Bosch.
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
He is the face of it, isn't he? For Bad Rhino, isn't he?
There you go. Yeah, and quite right as well, because it matches the brand.
Yeah.
But then Superdry, I struggle to fit in at my biggest, definitely. Like, because it's a Japanese make, and well, I don't know whether this is true or not, but I was told that, you know, Japanese people generally are smaller, therefore their sizes come up a bit smaller.
Yeah.
You know, if you go into John Lewis and you look at the designer brands, they generally are made for...
They come up smaller, don't
smaller
they?
people.
Yeah, I've noticed that, definitely.
But that's what they're aimed at, so then why would you have a plus size model modelling that?
Yeah. I don't know, it's a tricky one, isn't it? But
It's a proper can of worms, isn't it?
But yeah, like I said, I think for our audience, guys, I think most of us are fairly sort of happy of who we are and our size and shape. And obviously, we may want to lose weight, and that's great. But yeah, I think we've got to think about our kids, haven't we, and what they see and what they understand as normal and what expectations are, I guess.
That's my huge concern, is that, you know, if you're going to lose weight, do it for you. Don't do it for others. Do it for you, for the health benefits, for the confidence benefits.
Yeah.
I wish I'd done it when I was younger, put a bit more effort in, but I didn't, and that is what it is. But, you know, do it for you, because ultimately that's how you'll succeed, when it is for you.
Yeah.
And for me, talk to your children, you know, manage their expectations. You want them to be happy with themselves, but happy enough that they can say, do you know what, I'm a bit overweight, I'm going to try and lose a bit of weight as well, if that's what they need to do. But then, you know, I'm very conscious as well that the things like eating disorders are on the rise. You know, eating disorders is massive at the moment, and that's something on the podcast that we've not really touched, that we probably will in the future, looking at some of the guests that we're sort of in contact with at the moment. And eating disorders, we always think of the big, like the most well-known ones like anorexia, but actually a lot of eating disorders again cause weight gain. So you know, there's all
binge
sorts.
Eating.
Binge eating disorder. Yeah,
I mean, we probably both suffer with that at different points, and
exactly. But then there's things like anorexia and stuff like bulimia and stuff where it can be quite dangerous. So yeah, I think that's something that we need to be chatting to our children about and opening them up to that world, probably a bit younger than we really want to, but I think it's important they have the facts in front of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, a rather depressing episode there, mate.
Yeah, it was a bit different, and we got to cover all aspects, haven't we? And but it's another episode. Hope you enjoyed it, guys, and please like and subscribe to the page, and give us a follow on the social media channels. We're on all of them. But yeah, for now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.